Hello, viewers, and welcome to the latest episode of The Huddle. Tim Pool here, editor of Gambling Insider, and I'm with Ville Venojärvi of Veikkaus. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tim. Nice to be here.
Looking forward to talking to you about the Finnish market, what your company is doing at the moment. But just to inform the viewers that the initial basis of our discussion is that recently Veikkaus introduced kind of ID checks across all of its games. So that's just a brief intro into what we're going to talk about. To start off with, can you maybe give us a bit of a history of Veikkaus and its lottery products?
Yeah, sure. Veikkaus, as it is today, was actually formed 2017 when three gaming operators in Finland were put together. So it was already there was Veikkaus already before that, but there were also a horse racing company called Fintoto and then slot and casino operator called RAY in Finland. Those three were put together back in 2017, so now it's only one operator in Finland. And when it comes to the lottery products, the first, I would say, lottery game was launched in 1970 at the end of it, and the first draw for our national lotto was at the beginning of 71, and of course since that we have come quite a long way, and now we have Eurojackpot, Viking Lotto, all other different types of games. So I could say it's been quite a long journey now that we have all the games. We have quite a portfolio, but I would say that is a very brief history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And in terms of Finnish gaming regulation at the moment, there's been plenty of headlines recently, a lot going on in the wider market. As someone who's active in the market yourself, could you maybe give us again, probably a brief overview, as you say, because we could talk about it for a while, but an overview of the kind of situation of the market at the moment?
Yeah, sure. I think, well, like you already mentioned, one of the big things recently has been that we have been implementing the identification for all our games, and actually, as far as we know, we are the first lottery in the world to do it, including scratch cards. I mean, but aside of that, there is also a process in Finland that is possibly leading to a license model where some of the game categories that are now under the monopoly regulation that will be open for a licensed market. It's still relatively early phases in the process, but also I know that there is quite rapid target timelines in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, plenty going on in the market. I'm sure we'll hear more about it as things develop. Obviously, you mentioned lottery. You yourself, you're the VP of lottery products at Veikkaus. Can you tell us about your kind of specific role and then the company's specific offerings in that area?
Yeah, I would say that what my unit, what we are doing, we are responsible for the, let's say, the more traditional lottery games, which means Lotto, Eurojackpot, Viking Lotto, but also scratch cards, e-instants, Keno, and games like this. So it's more on the, let's say, traditional lottery side, what I'm working with.
Yeah. And you mentioned the identification checks, and as I said at the start of the piece, that's kind of the main headline that we're talking to you about. Can you walk us through exactly what it means to have these ID checks across kind of all Veikkaus games?
Yeah. Well, first of all, of course, something like that is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen overnight with us. So basically, for example, we have had these kind of, well, I'm not sure if ID checks is the correct word, but first players need to have a player account to play, and this has always been the case, for example, for our online wagering, and we implemented that, I think it was 1997, as one of the first lotteries, if not the first. So there it has always been in place. So when players use our digital services, it's there. But for lottery games, it became possible to start identifying yourself already in 2006. So as mentioned, it is always a journey when you do something like that. And as of May last year, it became mandatory to identify yourself when playing lotteries. I think everything went quite well. The implementation, everything worked as we planned. But of course, we are trying to improve our solution all the time. And I think the big thing or the new thing we did was actually the beginning of this year, when, at least to our knowledge, as the first lottery in the world, we implemented the same mandatory identification for scratch cards as well. That was a bit different when compared to the coupon games, because there it wasn't possible to identify prior to that. So it was 0% identification until end of last year, and as of 1st of January, now it's 100%. So there it was a big leap.
Adds a new meaning to the phrase 0 to 100 real quick, so to speak. You mentioned it's a journey, and I'm quite interested in kind of the planning that was involved behind it. What are the main aims here? And naturally, that will be to do with kind of player safety and that kind of thing. And how much of the strategy is perhaps driven or in part influenced by the Finnish government?
Yeah, I think you said it yourself. Identification, what we think is that it's of course an essential part of a responsible gaming ecosystem that we have now implemented. So it gives the players the possibility, for example, follow up their playing, and if they want to use our, let's say, self-exclusion tools or loss limits. So it is a very important part of it. So in that sense, it's a very core at Veikkaus strategy, but it is also written in our Gaming Act that as of January this year, 1st of January, it is mandatory that we identify our players in all games. So basically, I would say it's a combination of both. It's a general expectation in Finland, but also it's a very essential part of Veikkaus strategy.
Yeah, no, very interesting. And when we talk about increasing player protection and player safety, often it might come at a cost of, say, player friction in the customer journey. I'm just wondering how different is this to a typical gambling process for the player? Is it just the one extra step, or what kind of is involved in physically a player turning up and they want to play the lottery? How different is this process now to what it was?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that first they need to become our customers. So that is what they need to do, either online or at our own gaming arcades or casinos. So they need to register to be Veikkaus customers. After that, I would say it's relatively simple. When they go to the retailer, they can identify using our loyalty card, their driver's license, or our mobile app. So there are various different methods to do it. So I think that is the biggest thing, that when you play our games, buy lotteries and stuff, then you identify. It also applies when you collect your win. If you use cash option in lotteries, for example, you identify yourself. But like I said, it's been a journey, and I think and what we have seen is that, of course, people have been getting used to this for a while already. So. In lotteries, like I said, it was a journey of many years, and now in scratch, people had been getting familiar with this already a bit prior. So in that sense, I would say it's been relatively smooth.
Sure. Obviously, the most recent changes you've made are very fresh, very new, and that's why we got in touch. But do you have perhaps any data on the amount of betting and volumes of betting before checks and after checks when it comes to the products where you had introduced this already previously?
Yeah, well, I would say for lotteries, coupon games that we implemented in May, there hasn't been any drastic changes on the levels of wagering. Of course, things like this, they can have some kind of effect, for example, on the channel people choose to play, that they might be using a digital channel a bit more often, or things like that. But if we look at the big picture, there was no drastic impact, I would say. For scratch, we are like a bit more 1 week now into the identification, so it's still too early to evaluate, but so far what we see is that things work as they should. Everything, people and our retailers are now getting used to the new practices, and I would say the start has been quite good in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
We are I would say on a verge of a very exciting journey in this. So it is a big change, like I said, but to some extent familiar one from the lotteries.
Yeah, I mean, sounds fascinating, and I think as someone, it's a separate topic, but as someone sitting in the UK, it might be interesting. You know, a lot of people argue that measures like this might reduce volume, and actually, if we're seeing that maybe in Finland with Veikkaus that it isn't actually impacting the numbers, especially in a major scale, that might have to, some people might have to alter their approach and their message, but you know, that's for another day.
Yeah. I think that is like you said, and like I said before, is that I think it is when you look at things like this and the possible impact, you need to give it some time, and it's people, they take a bit of time to getting used to it and things like this. But in a big picture, I would say we have been doing quite a good job.
Mm-hmm. On that note, do you have any future kind of lottery measures planned, perhaps this year or in the coming months, or are you kind of all changed out for now?
I think when it comes to this, let's say, identification and like I said, building of the responsible ecosystem, I don't think it will ever be completely ready, but the major steps have now been taken. Mm-hmm. So I would say in that regard, it now starts to become more like a tool for us and our players to use, and in that sense, the big steps in that regard have been taken. So I would say now it will be a bit less focus on the technical implementations on that side, but time to, of course, try to improve our offering and our player experience all the time, digital, retail, both. So I would say it's like that.
Sure, yeah. And a final question from me, maybe to give you the chance to speak more broadly, not just necessarily on identification checks, even though obviously it's quite an important aspect of your role at the moment. What are the kind of overall aims for the division this year? You know, we're starting a new year, fresh kind of fresh approach, fresh excitement for everyone. What are you kind of looking for in terms of targets?
Yeah, I'm quite excited. To be honest, it's been a very interesting journey, and moving to this full identification, and it's actually very rewarding now to see that we have been able to accomplish it, and our players are getting used to it, and we actually managed to do it quite well. So I think now it's time to start looking, improving our business, and of course we have been trying to do that all the time, but the identification has been taking a big part of our focus as well. So try to make our customers enjoy the gaming experience as much as possible, and try to excite them with new games and new services, and improving our operation in general. So that's, I guess, what we are looking forward now.
Sure. Well, Ville, thanks very much for your time, and best of luck with everything you're looking to achieve in 2024.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thanks for watching, and see you next time.